Hey everyone, so I figured I would do a relatively quicker video today because I got so much feedback on my last video with a basic walkthrough of our home theater space. And questions I had the most about were these speakers right here, the surrounds that people wanted to seemingly see more of or hear more about. So that's what I am going to cover and talk about right now. So I'm going to be slower with my motions so that way hopefully it's easier to follow what's going on. So we have a surround speaker here. These are the 2152Hs, JBL 2152Hs. I have one here for the left side. There is one over there for the right side. And then in the back of the room behind our bar, which is a whole other conversation, we have one here mounted. And then over here in this corner, you can see that we have one more mounted up here. As our main listening and watching position is generally here, these work fine and work good for most of the audience, and we have our surrounds directly to the left and right for that. So to come back to the speaker that I'm sitting next to for the moment, to talk a little bit about why we use them. So what's neat about these speakers, it's unusual, is that their componentry, specifically their compression driver, is relatively high-end. And that's, as far as, low-end theatrical goes, it's high-end home theaters, how I look at it. So these speakers, just to go through some specs for you, I'm not going to put anything on the screen, I'm not going to be fancy or all that. Maybe in the future, if you guys want that, I'll do it for other speakers. Let me know in the comments below, please. But these speakers are 8 ohms. I have a cheat sheet. You can find this online too. You just have to search for JBL 2152H PDF on Google, and you'll pull up the same exact stuff I have here. These speakers are 8 ohms. They can handle a continuous pink noise of 150 watts. They are of a frequency response range of 70 to 17 kilohertz at negative 10 dB. They have approximately 102 dB efficiency. That's right, 102 dB. That's 1 meter at 1 watt. Which is really high for a speaker this size, but it'll make sense in a moment. Generally speaking, you've got a 12-inch driver here, which is the main woofer. It is coaxial, and the compression driver or the high frequency module is the 2416H. Some of them here have the -1, some don't. I'm not, as far as from listening to them, you can't hear the difference. Apparently it's a design issue to where the old, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the old voice coil for the tweeter, which is the compression driver in this case, could fail or failed easily, more easily at high temperatures. I don't hear an issue. I don't think we're ever going to push them that far. That component's not very expensive to replace with a genuine JBL component, so I'm not really that concerned. They might be 20 or 30 bucks a piece. They're actually really cheap to maintain. But basically, they sound great. The main thing that's pushing the speaker being so efficient is that compression driver as well as the woofer itself. The woofer itself has a very low X-max. It's only about 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters. It's very low mass, so it can move and excite very easily with very low power. It puts out a lot of sound. That being said, it's obviously a larger speaker. They fit great, which I have in the other room. I can show you briefly, perhaps, in a different video about my 2-channel setup using these speakers. If you guys want to hear about a 2-channel setup with dual subwoofers listening, I'm happy to set that up and do a demo for that. Let me know, again, comments below. But basically what I found is that they have great timbre, great sound, and great output. They don't take a lot of power to drive in our space, which is great. Granted, if you watched my home theater video, you would easily see that I have way more power than they can actually handle back there. But the most important part is that these speakers that are the surrounds timbre match. So they're all identical in the surrounds. The Atmos channels are different, but they are JBL. But also they happen to match the LCR behind the screen, which I'm going to make a whole other video about at this point. But they all use the same compression driver. So all the high frequency range sound all sounds identical. That being said, also because they're all the same efficiency, the ones behind the screen are again 102 dB. Granted, they can probably output a little bit below the 70 hertz range. but it's still, effectively fine for crossing over at THX, which is 80 hertz. I could push these up to 100 crossover. I don't like what happens with the sound; it gets too boomy. Too much noise is getting to the subs. I don't like that. These match perfectly. So when you have, for example, stereo audio that you don't have channelization, and you want to set your home theater to that wonderful all-channel stereo, this, because our surrounds match the mains, it basically, when you walk around the environment, it sounds seamless. Like the music is coming at you from all directions, and you can't really differentiate the quality of the sound or the timbre of the sound because it's all the same. Which brings me to another point that's different in these speakers from their counterparts that are meant for theater. Their crossover point is different. The surrounds, as well as my mains, all have a crossover point for the high frequency at 1.5 kilohertz. There is a roll-off that's a little bit different. The crossover itself is very simple. But the biggest thing is that the theater ones, which you would know well, which is the 3677, which are similar to my mains, uses the same compression driver that we're using here. So the speaker that most people know for home theater, the 3677, which is kind of a commonplace, it's a 115-inch woofer with a compression driver. The 2416H is the same compression driver in that 3677 JBL Cinema speaker. So you're effectively getting that same output. The only difference is that speaker is being crossed over at approximately 1.2 kilohertz, with these that were 1.5. I want to say I think that's to create more output, although the 3677 has more power handling, but I think that's because also the woofer itself can handle more power. I don't think that the woofer in here, as well as the ones in my mains, can handle as much power, therefore why they're tuned up a little bit, I think, so you don't end up pushing them as hard in that low frequency range. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you think, but I think that's why it's crossed over like that. Mostly just to protect the high frequency driver, because if you push it too hard with too much power too low, you run into an issue. Second to that, how does this set up? So this speaker fits inside of a 300 series canister. They're all in the 300 series canisters. Is this ideal for its maximum low end output? No. Do I think it needs to be lower? No, I don't think it matters. Maybe you could get more out of them. You're probably pushing it with tuning the box. It may or may not be worth it. I don't think it is for a home theater setup. Now, for the 2-channel, which again I'll make a video for if you guys want me to, they're in a subwoofer box, literally a subwoofer box, because they mount perfectly into a 12-inch subwoofer box so long as you have the depth. Again, because you have the compression driver, which is large, attached to the main speaker, it does take up more space to the back of the container. So again, it's literally back here almost. How are these being powered? How is it being run? Basically, we just have a simple lead that comes out the back, and it comes down to a terminal, and I have it here. And this was designed this way. I did it this way because I didn't think this little opening or hole, treated as a vent, let's say, mattered much for the overall sound output. Again, comparing it, using RU, looking at all the differences, I didn't find a significant change in the power or the sound or the frequency response by plugging or not plugging it, so I decided to leave it alone. It didn't make much of a difference. Now these canisters are the same canisters I'm using in the ceiling for the Atmos, so I was able to buy 8 of the canisters. The speakers in the ceiling are designed to go into these canisters. These guys were not designed. So if you look inside here, you can see here's a mounting hole, and here's a mounting hole, and there's actually the gasket, right, that's meant for the speaker to be on top. Well, it has its own gasket. I'm not sure how well you can see that in there. Pretty decently. So it has its own gasket, and it's mounted from behind to this, because the actual frame for the woofer did not allow me to mount it on top. I don't think it affects anything output-wise. It seals nicely. I don't have any issues. I'm not really that concerned about it. It sounds great. Again, if I was running output in the lower frequencies, yeah, I probably would be more concerned about it, but I'm just not. In fact, these could probably run open baffle and would make no difference. Again, let me know if you think that an open baffle would work with these. I have a lot of ideas to play with them. Obviously, I have 2 more of them for 2 channels set up at the moment, just for fun. I think they're a neat speaker. They're unusual. They're rare. They were only made in 1990 for 1 year. It does seem like there's about 30 to 50,000 of them in existence. They're somewhat hard to come by, and they do have a bigger sibling, the 2155, which is a 15-inch woofer that does give a little bit more low-end extension, things like that. But I think it's a great speaker. It's a great value. Again, I paid between 100 and 180 each, depending on where I got it from. And that's with shipping. So they're a great buy, great output. Someone could easily make LCR for most of those home theater. These with LCR with a correctly tuned box would probably be phenomenal with the right subwoofers. And then being able to go with something like I have in the ceiling, the 328s, which are an 8-inch woofer for your surrounds and your Atmos, would probably be a great small setup. I think it would sound phenomenal. There's also a smaller sibling of the 328s, the 227s, JBLs. They sound amazing as well. They have a little bit more bass, but they're not as efficient, so it's just kind of a trade-off. I have actually 227s as well. Anyway, so this speaker again is the JBL 2152H. It's pretty darn efficient, relatively inexpensive, vintage, still sounds great, easy to maintain. The only thing is, again, the cone can't be replaced, so if you hurt the cone, you kind of the woofer itself's gone. Crossover will be fine. The compression driver will be fine, but you're gonna have to find a different solution. Anyway, give me some likes, some subscribes, some comments, and I'll be back with another video. Let me know what you guys want to see next. The 328s, the JBL G734s, which are my LCRs, the subwoofer details, more on the amplifiers, more on my AVR, or more on Plex and things like that, Unraid, that help run this whole home theater entertainment space. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the future.